Welcome everybody. We have Patch My PC as well as Sean and Mo and Dan from PSADT are excited to talk about kind of this change, this partnership. Here's kind of high level what we're going to talk about. We're going to do introductions. We're going to talk about the PSAppDeployToolkit, a little bit of an overview. We're going to talk about Patch My PC Stewardship. We're going to talk about some upcoming innovation. Patch My PC customer implications, and we're going to talk, we'd like to open it up after that for people that brainstorm like feature requests or things they may have. And as registering, many people sent in questions. Some of those are feature requests, so some of those are in our presentation as well. And then at the end of that, we'll have just open Q&A. So that's kind of the agenda. So we'll start with introductions. So Dan, Sean, and Mo are kind of who I like to think of as kind of the godfathers of PSADT. Many people in the world have used it, but few people have known kind of these folks who were behind the scenes kind of driving it. So I'm going to let them each kind of introduce themselves. Dan, you want to start?
Yeah, I guess I'm Dan Cunningham. I'm one of the co-founders of PSADT, and I've been working in the industry for close to 20 years.
Awesome. Sean.
Hi, I'm Sean Lillis. I'm Irish based in Dublin. I'm also one of the co-founders of the PSAppDeployToolkit, working in the endpoint management space. And currently work for me involves a lot of work around Intune, Windows 365, and Azure Virtual Desktop.
Awesome. Emil.
Hey guys, my name is Mo Mashwani. I'm based out of Houston, Texas. I'm not one of the founders, but I found the project a little bit later on and was very happy to join.
Awesome. Thanks, Mo. And they're from 3 different countries, which I think is very apt as PSADT is used worldwide. So it being kind of created and founded worldwide, I think is very applicable. On the Patch My PC side, we have myself, David James, the VP of Engineering here at Patch My PC.
And I'm Alex. I'm one of the co-founders of Scatman, where we started using PSADT, and I'm now the Director of Engineering at Patch My PC.
And I'm Martin, also a co-founder of Scatman, and now I'm Director of Code here at Patch My PC.
Awesome. So this is kind of the main folks you'll be hearing from today. We also have some people behind the scenes running moderation and questions. So we're grateful for them too. Okay. All right, let's go. So I assume many people that dialed into this are well aware of what PowerShell PSAppDeployToolkit does or what it is. These are some slides that we used last month in MMS Miami when we were talking about it. This is just maybe some other folks, some background of what PowerShell PSAppDeployToolkit does. It's kind of framework for encapsulating software installs, a toolbox of functions to perform custom app packaging deployment tasks, provides custom branded user interfaces. You can defer installations, you prompt users, enforce post-install computer restarts, allow user interface elements to be customized with company branding, the UI is localized, automated logging for all Windows installers, and PSADT tasks. You can invoke registry settings for all users. Kind of alternative to active setup, can be run in context, no log off required, updatable, extensible with custom functions. And this is kind of the key nuance that's really important for what we're talking about too, is it's open sourced. It's open sourced in 2013. It has had a lot of growth. And when I was in my old job at Microsoft, it was amazing how many customers and how many IT folks in the industry were using it. I got asked frequently while I was at Microsoft, if we could integrate it in with Configman or with Intune. And to that point, kind of the adoption, it's kind of hailed as the de facto standard for custom app installs, or an easy way to have a lot of flexibility and lots of customization around your applications installations in the enterprise. And then it's even included some of the technologies out there around, Master Packager and Flexera Admin Studio both integrate with it and build on it. Mo or Sean or Dan, anything you want to add about kind of the history or kind of what it is? Okay, that's fine. Did you? And it's, it is, the source code is in GitHub, and anyone can contribute. I think when we were looking at it, there's been a good number of contributors that have added it. There's a few that have done a lot of the contributions, and there's some people that have done some contributions. So the beautiful thing about an open source project like PSADT is if you find a way to improve it or you have an idea, you can always ask, and we're going to talk about that later, about kind of how to share ideas for improvement, but you could also make the change yourself and submit it as a proposed change via a pull request process. And, if that makes sense, then it can just be added and everyone can benefit from it. So that's kind of the key behind it being an open source project that allows multiple people to contribute and innovate and kind of evolve the technology going forward. So this is kind of the key part of why we're here today is we at Patch My PC, so Martin and Wout and I, as well as Justin, our founder and CEO, have agreed with Sean and Mo and Dan that Patch My PC is going to take on the stewardship of the open source code base and the technology and the brand, partnering with Mo and Sean and Dan to kind of drive it forward. So Patch My PC, we're committing resources to drive innovation and continued development of PSADT. Sean, Mo, Dan, they've all worked really hard on it, but they also all have had day jobs too. And so what we're going to do is use some of our own company resources and technical expertise to drive more innovation into it, partnering with them and their vision to kind of drive it forward. Now, this is a question that gets asked a lot since we've been talking about it, and basically we want to really commit. The Patch My PC committed to the open source status of PSADT, and we'll keep it open and free for the community. Like we don't have an intention of anything that's there of like retracting it or removing it or putting a price on it. We want to really keep the spirit and the kind of charter of PSADT as it is. Really kind of what we're doing, I feel, is leaning in with more resource to kind of help accelerate it and take Dan and Mo and Sean's vision kind of to the next steps. Wow, or Sean or Mo, Dan, anything you guys want to add there? I know, Dan, you had a pretty good comment when we were kind of talking about like why you thought Patch My PC was kind of a good fit to kind of step into this role.
Sorry, I'm not sure. What are you referring to exactly?
No, yeah. So, why for you guys was Patch My PC an interesting partner?
Well, I mean, I guess the background with Scatman was kind of a key area there. You guys had just kind of acquired Scatman, and we knew that Scatman used PSADT on the back end. So there was a kind of a good synergy there to begin with.
Yeah. And then the second two or the bottom two bullets are really about kind of our partnership, which is we're going to partner with the founders and Mo to lean in with the community and drive awareness and education. So not just are we going to drive and contribute to the technology, we're looking at webinars and conference sessions that we're going to help contribute to, blogs to help drive kind of education and awareness of it. We asked, all the attendees were able to submit some questions, and there was a lot of questions that were more around like how can I do this with PSADT? What's the best practices for doing it securely? And so education and best practices is one of the places, in addition to driving innovation in the technology, but education is a place that we think will lean in as well. we don't have a goal yet, but I can imagine we might do, 3 or 4 webinars a year on PSADT. And then Patch My PC will partner with PSADT founders on the roadmap and strategic planning for innovation in PSADT. When we started working with Sean and Mo and Dan, it was pretty inspiring to see kind of the things that they wanted to go do. The list was really long, some of which were more tactical, some of which were more strategic. So now we're really kind of curious and aspirational what we can do partnering together and putting a little more resource on kind of that roadmap and that vision. Okay, more.
David, I would just add, as you said, we all have day jobs, and we probably struggle to give this the time it needs and deserves. The toolkit is so critical and integral to a lot of people working in the app packaging and endpoint management space. So the opportunity to partner with Patch My PC and to leverage the resources and expertise that you bring, not only to maintain the toolkit, but as you said, to evolve it and to really sort of take it to the next step. I think that's a really positive news for everyone associated with the toolkit and with Patch My PC. That the future is safe and secure with your backing.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Sean. Now these are some of the questions that came from attendees as part of registration. I left them in, typos and all. I do put a lot of typos in myself, and WoW picks on me for my slides, but I wanted people to kind of see the questions they asked. So you can see there's some themes here in some of the questions. Is it the end of free PSADT? Will it impact PSADT as it pertains to its status as open source or its license under GPL 3.0? How will the community be able to contribute with changes and feature requests? Will the GPL 3 license remain? Will PSADT still be updated standalone or as integration of PMPC? Are there plans to monetize PSADT or will it stay open source? And are there financial impacts to PSAppDeployToolkit from this? And I think we have more on the next slide. Will PSADT still be fully free to use? Do you plan to provide paid premium features? Will PSAppDeployToolkit remain a free product? Right. So there's a theme here. How does it impact corporations that use PSADT but haven't purchased PMPC? Will PSADT become a paid product? Will you leave it open source and free? And will there be open APIs? So, we're probably going to be saying this all the time going forward, but we are really committed to its open source status, and we'll keep it open and free. So everything that's in there today is going to stay. It's going to stay free. It's going to stay under the license, the GPL 3.0 license. If you're a corporation using it today, it's going to stay the same. The only thing hopefully that changes is we are driving it forward a little bit faster. And there will be some better together scenarios for Patch My PC paying customers we'll talk about later. But as is, if you're using PSADT, you shouldn't lose anything. You just maybe will have some opportunity for other capabilities going forward. Okay, next. Sean, Mo, or Dan, anything you guys want to add there about? I know this was a big thing we talked about leading up to this. Is how can we really kind of maintain kind of the intent, the spirit of the law of the open source and free nature.
Yeah, I think that just to reiterate, when we came to you guys and we had our initial talks about this, it was very much a case of, we didn't want there to be any change to the license agreement. We didn't want any change to, contributions to any sort of premium model as such. And yeah, you guys were very accommodating as regards that, and I don't think there's any need to worry about any changes coming down the line.
Yeah, and one of the things too, and this didn't make it into our slides, but we have Dan, we have Sean, and we have Mo. They were the key three driving this. Dan has actually joined us full time at Patch My PC, and a huge part of his job is helping us drive kind of the PSADT vision. And Sean and Mo will continue to work their day jobs, but they'll lean in as thought leaders and visionaries to help us drive strategy as well. So that's part of our commitment too, is we're even using full-time resources and effort to help drive this forward. So Dan, welcome to Patch My PC to help us keep this going. And on that note, so let us give you a little bit kind of history of some recent changes, maybe, as well as some of the ones that are coming up. So Dan, I'll kind of let you drive on this slide.
Yeah, so just in terms of the changes that we've kind of done recently, the most recent being we've overhauled the website, and that's kind of the first step that we've done as the start of the partnership with Patch My PC. Corey, thanks a million for all your help on this as well. So yeah, there's a new PSADT website. We've got all the documentation and all the reference material built out there, and pretty soon we'll have updates so that anytime there's changes made to the GitHub repo, they'll get reflected over onto the website immediately. So separately to that, Sean, I'll since you kind of primarily drove the 3.9.3 release, I'll hand over to you on that.
I think it was some time since I think it was the previous update was 3.8.4, so we released 3.9.0. Keep me honest, earlier this year. We had to get a couple of releases out in quick succession to get some bug fixes out. So there's a ton of fixes that went out in the initial 3.9 release, and then 3.9.3 is really just bringing a bit more stability, some improved Intune integration around not running the UI during ESP. And overall of the documentation, just cleaning that up. Yeah, 3.9.4 is underway. I guess we're going to talk about some of the roadmap items shortly.
Yep.
Awesome. I think this might have got out of order a little bit. So some of the things that are here's some more questions that came from attendees. So a lot of these ones were around kind of notifications. How does PSADT work with pop-up and defer screen, user control of defer if you are pushing software updates pending reboots? I wish a reboot controller function without the use of config man task sequences. We use PSADT in conjunction with toast notification from Martin Bernston. Is there a chance we can work with him and add your own? Also, is a great SCSM. It doesn't work in Intune, and I'd love to know if it's possible to get PSADT toast looking similar to PC for a seamless user experience. So this is one space that we see a need for some innovation. We're not quite sure exactly what we're going to do. So, for example, what things should look like sometimes can be very subjected to different people. Should the notifications follow the branding of say Windows 11 and look like Windows 11? Should it follow the notification and branding of say configman and or Intune? Should it follow the notification and branding of like Patch My PC? So we're kind of seeing what should the look and feel be of this branding. Maybe we'll have multiple, maybe we'll just pick one. We're still in the process of that, but for sure we know there's an area where people care a lot about the notifications and the UI, and we're going to work to iterate this. Wow, or anybody else, anything you want to add here?
Yeah, so the notification bit is indeed one of the, I think we're going to talk about the priorities, and definitely the notifications is pretty high on the list of what we want to do in there. But I've also seen a question pop by about VB script deprecation. That's also an area, but we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yes, let's talk about it.
So here's some of the short-term things that we know we're going to look at and do. So obviously the UI notifications, deprecation of VB script, that's a big thing. It's really impacting right now on Windows 11 and the new Server OS. It has ripple effects right now into MDT if you use MDT. So we're going to make sure that PSADT is resilient and still works even though VB script's being deprecated. And then certificates and code signing. This one is really tricky, but this is one of the places where I think someone like Patch My PC stepping in and maybe getting or a signing cert really specified for PSADT, and there's a lot of options here of how we can make this work better in a secure world. But yeah, this is a major kind of vector for improvement. And there is a lot of requests around Windows Defender App Control and App Locker, and so the signing part is kind of a prerequisite for that, and so that could feed into that. Sorry, wow, I think you were theming on this a little bit before.
Yeah. No worries. Yeah. So the sorry, go ahead.
Go back one slide.
Yeah, so indeed, the app locker thing is a common thing, right? So the certificates will actually enable us to go into WDAC and app locker as well, moving forward.
Yeah, and these above areas, these are just things we already knew that we wanted to start with, and so, but we're really interested in kind of community's longer term kind of wish list and ideas, because this is just a start of things that we already kind of put into the pipeline. Okay, what's next?
The longer term stuff. Oh no, questions.
Yeah.
Okay, the longer term stuff is still to come, I guess.
Yeah. So, what does this mean for Patch My PC customers? So first, before I talk about it, I want to answer some PSADT, some non-PSADT questions, sorry, that were submitted because they're going to be relevant. So one is, when will you be able to manage PMPC completely via the web, especially for Intune only deployment? So this was a question that came from one of the attendees as part of registration. So we think this is coming. This is under development. It's going well, and we expect it to kind of be in private preview in Q1 next year. So we're about a month away, I think. And custom apps, when I have a PSADT stuff is related. So custom apps is already in private preview. Honestly, we're probably have about 20 customers that are running it right now, giving us some good feedback, helping us fix bugs. One of the things, for example, that we had to take a few weeks ago is, now that as a company, we're storing some customer data up in Azure, we had to make sure that we have multiple Azure regions, so that we can have one in the US and one in Europe, so customers can keep their data where they want. So we're making really good progress on custom apps, and I think there's a chance that we'll release this calendar year. If not, it's coming in January. So keep that in mind for some of these next questions. Okay, next slide. Yeah. So for Patch My PC integrations, these are, again, are questions that were submitted by attendees. We use NWC PowerBench, a tool that brings Avanti DSM style scripting. In the background, uses PSADT. Will PMPC bring similar functionality to a new tool being developed, which allows building your own apps? Right. Will there be combined Scatman Patch My PC platform? Use the deployment toolkit as packaging standard when the new platform is ready? And is there any way to integrate PSADT managed installs into Patch My PC framework? What are you hoping to achieve by investing in PSADT? How are you going to make it better? And will you be incorporating the tool into published service? So I don't know if there's more. Hit next. There might be more on the next slide.
I think the next slide is going to talk about the longer term. There we go.
Okay.
Where are we?
So yeah. So short term, yeah, we could go to the next slide. It's good, Martin. So short term, we already use PSAppDeployToolkit in Scatman. So we have a lot of customers that are already authoring apps using it, and the Scatman catalog apps are using it. The custom apps feature that is a month or two maybe away from being fully released in public. Right now, you can add custom apps. It doesn't yet use PSADT, but we're going to add that as an option, so that when you add your own apps, that would be an option for deploying your own custom apps. So that's yes to like 3 of the questions on the previous slide. And then this is something that's interesting. We've been talking about it, and I think we're really close to it. But I put not committed because we don't want to, until we figured out all the logistics, we don't want to announce this. But we're actually considering offering commercial support for PSAppDeployToolkit for Patch My PC paying customers. I know there's a set of customers, a set of industries that can't use an open source technology if it's not backed by some kind of support. And so this is something that is unique that we think we could do, which is provide for a set of customers actually commercial support, kind of backstop, that if they have issues with PSADT, we can help them. This is kind of short term how we see some of the things we could do with Patch My PC and PSADT together. Now, longer term, I know this is a bit of a teaser, not very fun, but we're working on an unannounced feature that I expect we'll announce spring next year. That's around the application lifecycle management for apps and Command and Intune, and that will leverage PSADT. So when I talked about we might do 3 or so webinars every year, expect one in the springtime that I think will be really exciting about a feature that we just want to make a lot more progress on it before we talk about it. Anything else?
But that's going to be the big. That's going to be the big one, the last one.
Yeah, I think it'll be really interesting.
I want to talk about it, but okay.
Right.
I'll lobby you for once.
Thanks, Bob. So these are some other questions that came in, and this helped us realize there's a good need here. Which these are questions that came in from attendees that were registering, and a lot of these are around, how could I do this with PSADT, or what's this best practice, or how can I keep it secure? And so a lot of these how-to questions, I think, give us an opportunity to kind of connect with the community and either cover these in webinars. I really like to do them in webinars. Maybe some we'll do via blogs. And also, for sure, I think as we look at conferences, there will be more involvement from us in sessions and partnering with other people co-presenting sessions around PSADT. But yeah, this I think will be a big theme that we're leaning in on, is around kind of education and kind of driving, helping people know how to have the tool work more effectively for them. Okay. I think. Okay, next, Martin.
There are a few, excuse me, guys. There are a few questions in chat that we might want to see if we want to address, or see if there's any of these that we want to address that we haven't yet. Some things would include such as capacity for Patch My PC to work with Intune to create and patch apps through the excuse me. Retain custom detection logic for Patch My PC applications as they get overwritten by Patch My PC default detection logic when the new version gets released.
So I think that's probably less a PSADT question and more just a kind of design bug question around how Patch My PC works with Intune. It is something we're working on. I don't know if we have a schedule on it.
Okay. And I think that's it here. And I guess just encourage other people to.
There's one question, Dijan, that I got to mention. Will there be a capability for PMPC to work with Intune to create and patch apps for macOS platform? Just throwing that out there. That's a question.
Oh, I thought you were going to give the answer. Wow.
Well, we haven't agreed on what we're going to give as the answer, so I don't want to.
It's very interesting to us, and we don't have a date that we're committing to and when we would do it yet.
Perfect.
But I think we're a lot closer to doing it than we were a year ago, I will say.
Yes.
Thank you. All right. We can go to the next slide, Martin, which I think is just this was something interesting. Dan and I are talking, and this might be kind of the first big kind of open brainstorm in the community of just features that people like to see. And maybe this goes long, maybe this goes 30 seconds. So we just wanted to kind of give people an opportunity to kind of throw some moonshots or some wish-ins out of things that they wish PSADT could do. And maybe we could put them on our roadmap. So anybody have any kind of feature requests or things that they wish PSADT would do better? I think we could. I know there's a lot of people in this meeting, but we could either chat in the Teams and look for it, or we could have people come off mute and we could talk about it. Seeing something from unknown user, Winget integration.
Use a Q&A thing.
This was less about Q&A, just more about like feature requests.
Oh, yeah, okay.
The next slide's like Q&A. If anyone wants to come off, so it looks like Winget's a popular request. Was that 3 in a row? I was wondering if it's the same person, but different people.
We can allow people to come off mute if you want, DGM. For
sure. Let's do that.
All right. 1 second. Saving that.
Let's see if it kicks us all out of presenter again.
Yeah, that happened earlier. We tried to change that setting, and like everyone started getting kicked off, and that was a fun little thing. Go teams! But saving this setting now.
I can make that change right now. I have the meeting options open. We should be.
I think we're good.
There's actually a really interesting question there about PSADT leveraging a central location. So a central package store of sorts. And that's a very interesting kind of question.
Dan, would you think that's kind of like its own kind of someone's own private local implementation of Winget without being Winget? Basically like a local package store? Is that kind of the intent?
I think every company is probably going to have their own package repository of sorts. It doesn't necessarily have to be Winget in format.
Sure, yeah.
But like, I mean, there would be, you'll have like a source repository with, say, just the vendor package, and then you might have customizations that you layer on top, or you might have different customizations per territory or line of service, and they might be split out into different locations. But it would be kind of interesting to have a central store with some sort of application lifecycle management type of scenario. Just a thought.
Yeah.
Dan, there's also a question about being able to detect if there's a meeting or Zoom or whatever in progress or WebEx.
We already have presenter mode for
PowerPoint.
So for PowerPoint, yeah. But yeah, actually, that's a good idea. I was thinking about this before.
I think we wrote it on Scapman a couple of weeks ago.
Okay, all right.
So let's definitely have a chat about it.
Sure.
But yeah, I like that idea a lot.
I see one there that's got a few thumbs up. The removal of reliance on Service UI exe to present the UI in Intune for Win32 apps. I think that's a good one as well.
Yep.
Sean, is that one? Sean, is that one you guys have seen before? Is that a common request?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm just curious what the dependency on Service UI exe, why is that an issue?
It's for displaying the UI in the user session from system context. Right now, we currently utilize a scheduled task to kick that off, but it doesn't necessarily work in all scenarios. So
I
think being able to natively support it without having to rely on scheduled tasks would be a better solution.
I guess, Mo, I was kind of asking, thanks. That answers my question. I was kind of curious if the dependency itself is an issue. People just don't want to depend on it, or there's something about the dependency. And it sounds like there's maybe some kind of quality of experience issues with the dependency because of the task sequence juggling.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
My experience has been pretty positive, I would say, in terms of reliability of Service UI. I think it's the need, this dependency on having to download an extra tool from the Microsoft Deployment Toolkit and to have to run that. It could be done a little bit more seamlessly if we had a way to present the UI from system context in Intune. This is
the other thing as well as Service UI is a black box to us. So if something goes wrong, we have no way of fixing it. And I think that's something that's cropped up quite a bit, is because it's essentially mucking around with tokens and permissions to try and traverse between session 0 to session 1. It can be a little bit messy, and we've not been able to debug it properly. So if we had if we basically rewrote that ourselves in some capacity, or tried a different mechanism of doing it, and we've Mo, I think you've done a lot of work on this already. We kind of hopefully have this one solved, but we're still a while away from releasing it, I think. But yeah, the idea being we'd remove Service UI completely.
Yeah. It's not really binary we can include, so just having it built in just solves a lot of problems. And if you don't have a dependency on, it also makes it a little bit more modular, right? There's no reliance on any third party tool, and you can use it with any sort of management system.
Awesome. Any other questions that people saw fly by that are feature asked that are interesting?
Yeah.
And by the way,
Sorry.
anybody that wants to come off mute too to talk about something, that I think that's enabled now.
I had one. I'd seen it in the chat briefly, but basically PSADT will show you and say, hey, we're done installing the app, but PMPC does not. Is that something that maybe could come in the future, and then potentially even optionally show a button to say, we closed Word and whatever, click here to reopen it.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I think that's an interesting ask. It's a little challenging, but yeah, I think that's an interesting ask.
And I like the button at the end as well, because that's going to make user experience a lot better.
I linked the idea for notification after success installation.
Yeah, but sometimes customers, they just want less notifications for the users, so it should be an option.
Yeah, but it's got to be intelligent, right? That's a discussion we've always had. It's got to be intelligent when you show the notification because you had to shut it down. Then you always want to show the notification when it's complete because the user is going to want to know when he can reopen
exactly.
his app that he had open.
It can just, store it in a variable, say these apps are open, we need to close them. And then when you're done installing, offer to reopen those apps, because they want to get back into Word and do whatever they're doing, and or open Zoom, because that's our phone system in this case.
Yeah, one of the suggestions in there from Antonios is instead of just terminating process, can you send a close to it? Yeah, that's actually probably an easy request. It'd probably have to be something like send a close and wait a minute, and if it didn't close by its own, then terminate it or something. Part of the challenge is how many knobs do you put in? I think this is what I learned 20 years running ConfigMan is you can put a lot of knobs in there, but then it gets really complicated. But giving people the ultimate flexibility always sometimes ends up with lots of knobs. But yeah, I think that request, Antonios, is pretty easy.
Is that a PSADT request or a special PC request?
I think it could be both. It's a terminating process.
Script runner already does that.
It sends a close, Cody.
Yeah, it sends a close, which should prompt for save, save, cancel, etc. And then it times out and it sends a terminate.
Nice. So
PSADT does that as well. PSADT.
Don't know.
You're saying it does well.
Yeah. PSADT. You've got options to choose between the two. You can either do a force kill or you can have it soft close.
I thought we did a soft close.
Yeah. No, you can choose actually. I think you can choose between soft close and hard close. It's an option.
So there was something there about WinUI 3, like updated UI and notifications. That is kind of the plan. We've been mucking around with that for quite a while. There is some constraints around using PowerShell with essentially MVVM, which is kind of like the framework used for UIs in Windows since kind of like WinForms, or not since WinForms, since WPF. It's kind of the way forward, and it relies on a couple of kind of C# attributes like await, and that's not things that we can actually do in PowerShell. There's workarounds that it's complicated, and yeah, I'm so close to cracking that nut, almost. We'll see. But yeah, we're gonna do something around the UI there.
Not sure if y'all can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yep. Oh, okay, perfect. Yeah, so I asked a question regarding Intune and PSADT. I've tried multiple times. My package works perfect. I've even used a tool that I found where it will explode a .intune win file and then confirm the contents of the file, because in order to prep it, you have to use that content preparation tool to get it in the Intune win format. So I know my package works, but whenever I put it into Intune, it doesn't seem to kick off ever. And I've even gone so far as manually installing the thing on my test devices, and then Intune will confirm. But I'm just wondering if there's like a minimum version, or if there's like a prerequisite that I need to install for the PSADT packaged apps to work. I've even included the service UI executable at the top of the folder structure. So yeah, I don't know where I'm going wrong on this.
It's going to be difficult to troubleshoot this in a live webinar, but
Yeah.
I would just recommend make the application available, download it in the company portal, and look in your IME cache. Try to copy paste that content there and try to run it locally to see what kind of output you get there.
Okay. And then with regard to that issue that about the post close message, or we close this app message on our end, we actually use a post installation message where we give a reboot status of the device. So if the device has a reboot, we'll say, hey, thank you @env username, the app name has been installed, please reboot your device if get pending reboot status is true. And I guess if you wanted to, you could add this app has been closed as part of the close app logic there. So maybe that would resolve the you need to relaunch this thing. And we're using that via this show installation prompt message at the very end of our deployment. So that was all. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Some more questions. The chat feed. There was a question about accessibility. Yeah, it's something that we can look at. I'm lucky in that I brought someone with me from Microsoft that's really good at accessibility, Trevor, who's in the back answering questions. But the good thing is there's not a ton of UI. And so the possibility of us getting accessibility working on screen readers in different screen sizes and might not be that bad. So it's something that we can look at. Anything else pop out in chat to people? Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Got one feature that we would love in our company. So when you need to reboot your machine multiple times to get an installation to complete, so like package needs 2 or 3 reboots before it's fully installed, we sometimes find that it's quite difficult to script that, but because PSADT, when you restart, it's gone, like it's not still running in the background. If there's some way to get that working. So the latest thing that we're working on is patching this CVE that Microsoft have released about Black Lotus. It's some sort of rootkit which needs to patch the UE. You need to patch the UEFI, reboot the system, wait 5 minutes, then reboot the system again. Finding that quite difficult to script. Is there some way that you can keep track of when the reboots are happening and carry on from the same point in the script and then keep it going?
Yeah, that's a problem I've thought about a lot because I've had need for something like that myself. But the problem with that is you have to create and install a service. And I have actually done that before. I've created and installed a service that reboots the machine, then starts the installer back off, and then at the very end deletes itself. So there's no remains of the service remaining, but that also may seem a bit shady to people. So I've never actually I've used that personally myself, but I've never gone through with actually implementing that in the toolkit. Just, I think some conversations we've had previously around it. I know, Dan, you've mentioned that's going to be a no-go for a lot of organizations as well. So I don't know. I personally don't have any problem with it, but I can see how it could be seen as problematic by some people if you install a service, even if it cleans itself up at the end. So I don't know. It's one of those things. It's definitely something we can talk about.
Yeah, it would be a great feature. I mean, we used to use anti-DSM, and it installed itself as like a service, like you said, on the system, and it had like an agent, so it was doing the tracking of the rebooting. So yeah, but with SCCM Intune, you don't get any of that, and with PSADT, of course, you know, when you restart, it loses track of what's going on.
Yeah, I did my thing in the context of BIOS updates, where you had to reboot the machine and then kick off the installer after, and you needed to kick it off before Windows logged on or anything, disable people from being able to log in, and that could really only be done with a service. So yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for answering. Appreciate it.
Couldn't previously PowerShell workflows be used to reboot and pick up tasks where it left off?
No, I haven't really messed around with that too much. It's definitely something I'll look into, though.
Yeah, it's one of the older. I mean, it's not like a new feature, but PowerShell workflows have been around for a while, and I've used them in the past to handle reboots mid-task.
Okay. Yeah, I've never actually messed around with that that feature of PowerShell. It seemed very interesting when it first came out, but never really dug too much into it. I will now, though.
Yeah, as Mo says, that like managing state and continuing kind of execution post multiple reboots is can get really complicated to deal with all the scenarios. Like, what if the user doesn't log back in? Then do you auto log them in so you can finish? So you end up building what looks like the config man task sequence, which is quite an elaborate piece of technology. Or maybe even MDT, which uses at its core the core component of task sequence engine. But you know, the need to deal with reboots while you're installing applications, because application writers sometimes write their setups to need reboots, does create this problem. So yeah.
You could also maybe potentially have it recreate have the PSADT create a temporary secondary script that puts itself in like a run key, something like that.
Yeah, the problem with that is it's not going to run with elevated privileges unless it's running from a service. Yeah.
That's right. You're right.
Yeah. So then, like, if you execute it like right before logon, like for a BIOS update, right? You essentially have to run as system, and then if you want to display something in the UI, you have to display it in the desktop session that the logon screen resides in, which is possible. So you can like take over that entire screen, not let anyone log in, and complete like, you know, your BIOS or whatever update, or even kick off an OS update at that point. That's what a task sequence does essentially, right? It doesn't allow Explorer shell to run, and it just replaces its own, runs its own shell, and runs from, I think, the system context in the desktop session, logon session, and does its thing. But essentially, you need a service to replicate that behavior. And that's the question, right? Like, do we how many people would trust? I mean, maybe there's a little bit more trust now from as an open source product supported, and you know, back by past my PC, maybe we have the clout now to put a service in there that creates and deletes itself if it's signed.
I think from speaking just for myself personally, the trust is there because, I mean, you've already got you know, quite a lot of rights on the PCs anyway. Yeah. So a lot, if you wanted to do damage, it's a lot you can do anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's definitely something to consider. There are some important use cases in that whole area, right? BIOS upgrades, OS upgrades, being able to kick them off. Yeah. Other firmware types of updates, CPU bytecode type of updates. Yeah. Those kinds of exploits are becoming more and more common. I know Lenovo was actually using PSADT for packaging one of their the updates when one of the big, I think, Spectre stuff happened. So, yeah, building something like that in there would definitely help someone like that using it for that type of use case. So,
yeah, Cody, I'm going to let you just reiterate some of the questions you answered in chat. So, one was around the user-based apps. Do you want to talk about that a little?
Yeah, this is a question we've had for a long time at Patch My PC. You know, would we be able to update user-based apps with this, you know, potential down the road integration with PSADT? So we do support user-based apps already. We have them in our config main apps tab, we have them in our Intune apps tab, and we also have them in our Intune updates tab. The main concern that comes into play for user-based apps is the updates tab. That updates tab uses WSUS, and with it using WSUS, we're also subject to the limitations that are there. WSUS uses applicability rules. Those applicability rules are run by the Windows Update agent on the device. That runs as system. So, you know, we can't do our detection logic without doing some weird oddness, right? We'd have to either write some sort of custom applicability rule wrapper that ends up ultimately searching users' profiles, which isn't really great in this context. Otherwise, we'd have to stamp the registry somehow ourselves, which is just, we don't want to do that. So it's not so much that PSADT is going to help in this area. We already have user-based functionality in all the tabs. It's just specifically WSUS updates where we don't have that user capability. I think we can get creative down the road and make it a little bit easier and more seamless to get those things patched if you want them patched in the user space. But at the end of the day, you're not going to see user-based apps appear in our WSUS updates area, I don't think. But we may make it easier for you, I think, in the future.
Thanks, Cody. And then the other one was around our ideas portal and where to file. Is that something you could show?
I can, I guess. Well, no, I can't because I cannot share.
I'll share.
Yeah,
I'll
sure.
Share. Gotta make sure.
I guess
right.
I'll raise the question. Should I be going to GitHub issues or should I go here? Because I don't know the answer.
Yeah. I think what we would say is if you do either, we're going to look at both. We did add this here to simplify it. And Dan and I have talked about maybe in the future where we would do it. But if you put your ideas in GitHub or you put it here on the Patch My PC ideas portal, we're going to look at both places for ideas. Are you filing an idea?
Yeah, I'm not gonna actually file what I'm showing. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is our traditional idea portal that Patch My PC currently hosts. You know, we've started to add in some of the other components like Scatman's on the list as well, but we have PowerShell AppDeployToolkit listed here as well. And so this is, you know, our idea portal that we come to and we triage these. You know, it's not just the number of votes. It's not just how interesting it looks. There's a lot of factors to consider. Hey, look at that. There's already an idea there. So absolutely, you can come in here and add ideas and review ones that have been submitted by others as well. I don't know if it supports dark mode, Jake. It might.
I just noticed I'm running some new version of some new software that we're I'm gonna stop sharing.
Good question from Christina. Which place do we look in first? I guess whichever one's already open in my web browser. Let's see what else. There is a non-PSADT question there that just came by, but I'm gonna wait a little bit to answer that one. Oh, is there? There's a question there, Dan, about PSADT Discord. Is there a Discord?
Of course, there's actually Discord. Yeah, there's two of them. There's Discourse is the forums, and Discord is the kind of chat and voice kind of like the gaming system. Discord is run by WinAdmins, and that's definitely going to stay. I would really like to get rid of the discourse forums and move to using GitHub discussions instead, just so that we had a central kind of spot for that. But it's still up in the air. We'll figure that one out.
Okay. Yeah, that's good to know. I didn't know there were two in Discord.
I have a quick question. I've seen that Tom DeGrief has a GUI for PSADT built, and I was wondering if you guys were planning on having like I don't know. I don't think he's like is how affiliated is he, or are you guys planning on doing your own graphic user interface, that type of thing for it?
Oh, so you're talking about Tom's kind of UI experience that you can use it almost like a wizard and it can kick out PSADT script?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I do talk to Tom all the time, but I haven't thought about talking now that we're kind of taking the stewardship at PSADT about what that means. So yeah, I could bring it up with him and see kind of what his thoughts are. Is that something you use?
Well, I don't personally, but there are some on my team that are not as PowerShell savvy as others, and so they find the GUI pretty beneficial for some of the smaller packages that are done, less complicated packages. But I thought if you guys were going to sponsor like an official GUI for PSADT, maybe you can include like a create SCCM app or create an ECM application or create Intune feature in that GUI, so it reaches out and does that for you.
I see.
So
yeah, okay, that'd be interesting.
There's currently
ahead,
like 4 or 5 different tools I can think of that all do similar sort of things. There's FlexAir Admin Studio has those capabilities. So does Master Packager, Master Wrapper, which is essentially a UI for creating scripts, as is Tom's tool as well. There's another one I found out about like yesterday, I think. There's a lot of kind of different varying degrees of free tools, and then there's kind of like paid products as well. It's kind of a bit of a crowded space for us to kind of get into that. I don't know whether there's any point in us investing time in that, but certainly I would be supportive of all of the existing ones. So I think one of the things we want to do is establish a kind of a vendor relations team, or like a working with the likes of Master Packager and all these various companies to try and figure out what features they're looking for, so that we can maybe prioritize being able to provide better wizards or things like that. Being able to interface with those teams better and provide the functionality that they're looking for in order to keep developing those tools. So I think we talked about maybe having quarterly meetings with those.
Yeah, it's one thing that Dan and I talked about that we're really passionate about is there's businesses out there or projects that are built on top of a PSADT or leveraging or feeding into it, and we wanted to create kind of more of a kind of a advisory board with them and partner together with them and not just drive technology for IT folks that are using PSADT, but also for these other vendors to make sure that we can light up opportunities or technology for them that work. So as Dan said, it will be interesting because if they're all already in that space, a better investment for us might be to kind of feed them more what they need to make it better. But in the spirit of PSADT being a free and open tool, we'd want to make sure that there's free and open tools out there if that's the path we take, even though there's always going to be some paid ones built on top of it, because businesses are there to make money, but we also want to make sure that we're leaving a free and open kind of option for customers. So I think I can see Dan's mind thinking. I think we'll plant this seed and we'll kind of go think what we could do with it. And like I said, I'll reach out to Tom and we could talk to him too.
Yeah, and we might integrate something for Patch My PC customers as well. if we integrate PSADT, we might add some options there as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that functionality will be exactly what will exist as part of the custom apps capability. When we add PSADT into custom apps, is it'll be a UI experience for adding apps, and that will also add them into Figma and Intune.
Yep.
Yeah, that was my thought, right? That's what the integration looks like to me, because we keep hearing the question, you know, we're going to see PowerShell app deploy toolkit integrated into Patch My PC. And in my mind, that sounds a lot like that GUI we've just discussed, right?
That's right.
We're going to have a front end. You're going to provide us the 7, 8, whatever pieces of magical metadata, and we're going to generate a PowerShell app deploy toolkit package for you. And maybe some of that's pre-post scripts, maybe if it's a couple of knobs, you know, trying to simplify it. So I think that some variant of what you've seen from these other, you know, community solutions, something like that is going to come from us. But it's kind of a, you know, too many knobs starts to get pretty crazy. So we've got to strike a balance.
Yeah. Thanks, Cody. A couple more questions, and Cody, maybe you can help on some of these. One was around multi-files.
Yeah.
And around Adobe. This is probably more a PMPC question than a PSADT question. And Jake, Cody answered it saying it's more about, for the Adobe case, it's more about silent install. But I think we're on the verge of some multi-file implementation, right, in PMPC.
Yeah, definitely. So the multi-file limitation comes in, going again back to our roots of WSUS. So WSUS metadata has to look a certain way, and then WSUS has to process it in a certain way. And so we can step in the middle when we're running the publisher, and we can massage that metadata to make it look like what we want. We've historically just not implemented that. But as we've started to work through custom apps, we came across the zip scenario, and
I mean,
we're solving it. So,
Cody, it's probably honest to say, like, the first 3 out of 5 TAP customers in private preview that tried it had feedback of, oh, I need multi-file support. And then we finally went and added multi-file support to Patch My PC, right?
Exactly. We added it for custom apps, and it almost works for non-custom apps. We just have to account for that scenario. So we kind of accidentally implemented it, and then Andrew said, hey, it's broke. I was like, well, I mean, I didn't mean to do that at all. So I'm glad it's half working. It's close to working.
Yeah, it is a good thing about these big feature kind of ambitions we're driving that need us to do a private preview is we're getting a lot of feedback that kind of steer us a little more urgently to fix some stuff that we haven't fixed yet.
Well, we designed it from the ground up, honestly, for multi-file custom apps. And the cool with the MSI extractor thing, we've got some cool stuff in there.
Yeah, it's probably, you know, wow, it's probably time in maybe January to just do a full-blown webinar on custom apps. It's probably one way it would be public, right? We could show this all off.
Yeah, but
I'm reading your nonverbal on your face.
I'm a bit hesitant. No, I'm a bit hesitant because we talked about when we want to do public preview pretty soon. I'm not going to say a date here because too many people.
Yeah. So you don't want to wait till January, is what you're saying, but you don't want to commit to a date earlier. Yeah, I get it.
But there's just some terms and conditions stuff that's preventing it. So public preview and then.
Yeah, well, what I was talking about. So we're really close to releasing custom apps, and some of the things that are holding it are not technical issues. those are the last things we have to solve. The dang European government, but that's okay.
No, lawyers. I blame lawyers.
Let's see, anything else? There was a couple more things. And this that I saw recently in the chat, one around, we'll call them package or content repositories, whether it's Chocolately or Winget or Microsoft Store or whatever that's called these days. Integration with those is definitely something that we've talked about, and it's something that we're not ready to commit to or say how it's going to work, but we recognize that there's a lot of valuable content in a lot of those repositories that we want to allow you to streamline into your management infrastructure. So it's something that's on our roadmap for sure.
I've got a question.
Sure.
Yeah, it's about the VB script dependency there. We have a lot of software packaged with PSADT, and I just wonder with the older versions, the packages, will they break in some way when Windows will stop supporting VBScript? Is something we have to worry about, or do we have to update the applications with newer versions of PSADT?
I think that I'm going to let someone else answer this question, but I'm going to make the question even more complicated before someone answers it. So I saw there was a question around, is there a best practice for upgrading PSADT?
Wow.
Because I think part of the answer to your question is we're committed to fixing PSADT to not be dependent on VB scripts, but then you're going to have to rev up to the latest version to get that. And you know, Dan, maybe this is an interesting place for us to write a blog around like best practices on how people can rev up the new version. But you know, Dan or Mo or Sean, maybe you guys have an answer to this question.
I guess we've bandied around like quite a lot of ideas around this. There's the actual PSADT package that's included as part of an install itself, and then there's also the possibility of using a PowerShell module, and then that could potentially be upgradable. The problem with that is you're versioning the release of PSADT that's released at the time to go with an application package, and that's something you can test out. The problem if you upgrade PSADT as a module is that version will change, so any of your testing is going to actually be invalidated. So we've been kind of going back and forth as to which is the kind of best path forward. I think the more we thought about it, the more likely it is that what we'll do is we'll package a module with each version of a deployment. We won't actually look to install the module as part of the local kind of PowerShell modules that get installed, because updating those can be problematic, as well as would invalidate all your testing. But how we kind of best advise on how to do that, it's still up in the air a little bit.
Okay.
You know, Dan or Mo, if you guys were in that situation and you had all this, I mean, you assume that on an older version, we fixed the VB script stuff in PSADT. Like, what would be our best suggestion for what they do? Is that just a lot of manual work to rev it up?
Depends on how much testing you want to get done. I mean, you can probably just replace all of your source files and then push up new CM packages. The question is whether you actually want to do that. A lot of companies would probably just opt to leave the source files alone in older versions and only just update any new applications you're going to be deploying out.
That's what we normally do, but we did run into that. If we want uninstall, we had older versions like 3 point something, and that stopped working for some reason, I don't know. So you just had to update to 3.8.4. Those applications that didn't uninstall. It's not that many that we actually uninstall, but at times you need to do that. Okay. So well, that's manual work, and you do it when you bump into it. And
sure.
I just wondered if it would be general that all installations will stop working when VB script stops working. That would be bad.
So my understanding is that the VB script application it's going to be a Windows feature that you can, enable or disable. It's not like it's going to just suddenly stop working. Now, I don't know how they're going to handle, like, is the deprecation going to mean Windows 11 that's ISOs that are patched past this version it's disabled? I don't know what Microsoft's going to do, but you will always have the option to use it. They're not removing it from the OS completely, right? Okay. You'll be able to use VB. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, it sounds like it's going to be kind of like how they do with .NET 2 and 3.5, where you can just install the optional features still today.
Yeah, and the question is it going to be there by default, or are they going to stop putting it in there at some point? And I think that the community is going to be pretty diligent on making note and making it known what the behavior is, right? There's a lot of really awesome people in the community that are going to immediately catch this.
I think as well, it's probably going to be we're going to find that it's going to be a much more pervasive problem than than any company realizes. You'll find that like there's bits of VB script in every sort of utility and lots of bits of code all over machines. And I imagine we're gonna start seeing things fall, like things just stop working across the board, and it'll be more likely that any company is just going to add back in the VB script for a period of time until they can eradicate a lot of these tools. But we'll have this all sorted by then on our side anyway.
Okay, thank you.
But I'm guessing then that once we integrate that with custom apps on our end, it will be pretty simple, right? Because we're going to have a template, we're going to work off of that template, and you just recreate the app, and then it's updated.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, is that how you do it in Scatman?
Yeah, if we update, it's basically a template, and then when we update the template, and then every new package that gets created from that point on, we'll use a new version. So then basically you're doing a republish of the app, and when you republish it, the PSADT module is updated.
Awesome.
Which would actually solve the problem.
I know we're approaching towards the end. Any final thoughts or questions?
I did have a question.
Sure.
I'd like to know, have there been any requests, or does Patch My PC have any plans for the future to have duplicate multiple copies of one application? So, for example, my organization has, for example, for applications like Snagit and Camtasia, where we have multiple licenses for departments. And so it would be nice if we could actually have multiple deployments. I'm shaking your head like I'm pretty sure it's not the first time you've heard this.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice. So we're actually utilizing that, where we're putting in the custom script on the back end to put in the keys. But unfortunately, certain ones that we're not able to utilize, such as Camtasia and Snagit, just for a couple of examples. So it'd be nice if we actually be able to actually have multiple copies there to actually utilize that. So I want to know if you actually have any plans to do that.
I'm going to give you the simplest answer in human history. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a scenario we're really aware of, and a little background. With Wout and Martin joining from Scatman, we're taking this opportunity to redesign a whole new kind of SaaS architecture that has the best of both Patch My PC and Scatman. And this was one of the early features that we wanted to make sure was covered. And so Cody, I believe we're kind of on the path to making the changes that will even work for on-prem publisher eventually.
Yeah, we've been working in that direction for a little bit. But yeah, definitely, we will support multiple applications for the same product with different configs.
Okay, so just if when you do implement it, it most likely will start out in Intune if it does.
On the SaaS side, yes, because SaaS is going to have it first, which means that it's going to be Intune. But then
yeah, that's just going to be the default state on that side, right? When that's released, that's just how it is. Publisher will follow with the same availability, which would then be config man and Intune and whatever you're publishing to.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I have a quick one. This is Patch My PC related, but for the applications you upload yourself, as in the files, take Cisco Secure Client, for example, it looks for the version that you guys have in, right? So in the file name, of course you can change the file, but it's still technically the wrong version. Is there a plan or anything that we can then change the version and tell it which version we're giving it? Because sometimes we're behind on the versions. Thank you.
So I think what you're trying to say, so in the publisher, we can have applications, we have a fixed version there, and you can upload your own sources there, but you would like to change the version. So I think we will solve that problem with a custom app, so you can find your own version.
Yeah, it looks specifically for the newest version that's in Patch My PC, right? But we need to give it the file ourselves, but then you will give it the wrong version if you just change the name. So I was hoping for us to be able to actually specify, oh, this is the version we're actually giving you.
Yeah, so our catalog does currently have just the latest version. So just like you said, so that is something that we've talked about a couple times, offering the historical versions in the catalog. And I think we want to in some instances, but we have to be careful because of the content. A lot of the time the download links don't change and vendors only provide you the latest. That's one thing we have to walk into. And then for publisher side anyway. But yes, I think there is intent to offer old versions. For now, what you can do is, play with your settings around retentions and delays and pauses and things like that. To make sure that you do at least have the versions you want. Because I can't provide a fix for you today, at least we do have options to make sure that you kind of publish each version, and it's up to you whether or not you deploy it. That might help for now.
Can't we solve that with the custom app coding?
And yeah, if you have it, absolutely. Custom apps is something too. Like if you have the binaries, you can just make your own app and do your own detection and publish through custom apps. Totally.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna talk about SaaS again for a second. Definitely version pinning is on the list as well. It's not gonna be in there from day one, but it's pretty high on the wish list.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Well, I think we're coming up on time, and hopefully, not hopefully, this is going to be the first of many kind of customer or community interactions around PSADT. And I think snapshotting the chat, there's a lot of good feature ideas and topics there. So, I'll work with Dan and Sean and Mo. We'll figure out something that we'll plan for next quarter to maybe do another one of these, because it looks like we could just talk as a community on a bunch of themes and features. So maybe we'll bring a topic and maybe some innovation, and we'll see how it goes. But again, I wanted kind of in closing just to thank Dan and Sean and Mo for their hard work the last 10 years to build a technology that you could see during this call. There's so much kind of interest and passion and kind of careers that have been kind of built on using this. So this is me giving you guys an applause, Dan and Mo and Sean. And also, I also, that one of the questions that I think is going to come up all the time is like, well, is Patch My PC going to keep this stuff free? Is it going to keep it open? And yes, I'm just probably going to have to open and close every meeting on PSADT to kind of reaffirm and reiterate that is we're really committed to keeping kind of the vision and the focus and the community, the free, the open source aspect of it that Mo and Dan and Sean kind of dreamed up going forward. But other than that, I just want to thank everybody for joining us. If you have ideas, feel free to share them in our ideas portal for future ideas. We are gonna, I snapshotted the chat, so we'll go mine all 73 pages of that for some ideas that were in there. And feel free to engage with us in social media or Twitter or wherever. I think this is a start for me of a really exciting phase of driving PSADT innovation forward. Anybody else, maybe in closing, anything to say? Wow, Martin, Sean, Dan, Mo?
No, I'm really excited to start working on things and implementing a lot of the great ideas people have. So thank you, everyone.
Yeah, for me, PSADT has been really great for our customers at Scatman, and I truly believe that we with Patch My PC, we always support the community, and this is definitely a tool where we really think has a lot of value for our customers as well.
Yeah, I think it shows that there's a lot of people here, a lot of people are a fan of PSADT as well, and I think that's really what we want to help drive as well. We want to help all of those people succeed.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you next time.